Hello and welcome to Disc Review, the podcast that goes track by track through a different album each week.
And we're your hosts, Max and Matt. Join us as we explore some of our favorite records.
No, I'm a fan, I swear.
I feel like I've become a music normie.
I'm tired of being Mr. Positive guy.
Dude, that's not humor.
This is certifiably the most boring album I've ever heard.
And there's a reason they don't do it, because it's terrible.
We hope you enjoy the show. Let's get into it. Hello everyone, welcome back to Disc Review. Today, we're going to be talking about Disgusting by Beartooth, and that's a little bit different than what we usually cover. We've definitely covered like some post-hardcore, some stuff with screaming, but we've never really covered an album with as much screaming as this and as heavy as this. So, what are your thoughts going into it, Matt?
Well, first of all, what genre is this?
It's like metalcore.
Okay. I don't think it's like too far out of the realm, but yeah, it's definitely probably the heaviest we've covered. I have some experience with this record. I remember listening to some of it through you, their most popular song especially, and I think I checked it out. I never got into this album or really the style of music in general, so I feel like I might have a different perspective than you. What's your experience and how do you feel about it? Just thinking back before you reviewed it or listened to it again, what were your thoughts on it?
Well, this album has always been important to me, and not even really because I'm a huge Beartooth fan, because to be honest, I haven't really liked any record that they've put out since this one. But I don't know, this one was very important to me as a kid. A lot of it has been very helpful to me. I feel like it has a lot of emotion. And as we'll talk a little bit later, it's very raw, it's not super overly produced. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a time capsule of when I was a kid, and it feels nice coming back to it now. And it's as good as I remember, although I don't connect with all the songs like I feel like I probably used to. But I definitely still really enjoy this one.
All right, you ready to dive in?
Yeah, well, let's talk about this album art. I like the artwork. I'm just glad that this is kind of around the time where album art started to become a little less cringe, although as we talked about before we started recording, Beartooth still has some cringe to come. There's not really anything particularly special about this one, but I kind of just like that I don't hate it. I feel like I've been hating on album art a lot lately, so it's nice to have one where I'm like, yeah, it's good.
I'm not majorly offended by it, but I definitely don't love it. It's just like a different style from a different time, for sure. This is very of the time and of the genre. I think that, I don't find it super interesting, though. A little dirty room and a guy floating. Or I guess
you don't like dirty rooms.
It's kind of edgy. I think that's what they're going for. But yeah, it's not their best or their worst. It's pretty mid as far as looking through their entire album art collection.
All right, well, let's jump into these tracks.
Jumping into the track by track.
The first track is The Lines. Right out of the gate, we get a really crazy, energetic song that is just so fun to sing along to. I think something that really sticks out to me on this one is the end of the chorus where he switches from singing to screaming kind of halfway through a word. It just kind of gives me the feeling that there are no rules, that anything goes, that, that there will be some unexpected turns taken. I'll also take a moment here to kind of give some background about Beartooth real fast. So Beartooth was created by a guy named Caleb Shomo. Caleb started his music career when he was just 15 years old, when he joined the band Attack Attack as the keyboard player. And for those who don't know Attack Attack, it was like an early 2000s Christian emo metal band.
Wow.
That's objectively not very good, but they've got a few bangers that every metal kid knows, like Stick Stickly and Smokeahontas. After a few years, the lead singer of Attack Attack, who was also the singer of Mice and Men, he left Attack Attack, and they needed a new singer. So Caleb Shomo was like, well, I feel like I can sing, I can give it a shot. So he becomes the new singer, and immediately the whole fan base kind of turns on him. They all say that, he's not as good as the old singer. He's got kind of a weight problem at that time. He's overweight and he's made fun of for it mercilessly. And it sends him into like a really dark place where he's still a kid at this point, like 18 or 19, and he's drinking all day and he has horrible depression. And so he leaves the band and the band ends up breaking up. And so Beartooth started when he was in this super dark place and kind of all alone. And he started writing these songs just by himself on his computer at home. And he put it out. He released like an EP with some of the songs that ended up on this record. And immediately they all blew up in the metal scene. And Beartooth has become, a household name for kids like me. So kind of an interesting story. And I feel like a lot of the songs, you can tell that that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That's it's a good story. I didn't know that at all. I guess for a lot of this record, I feel like I'm going to be asking a lot of questions about just this genre. But they definitely remind me a lot of Mice and Men, which I also don't have a ton of experience with. But I guess it's like, how common is this style where it's like the verses are like just screaming sections the whole way through, and then it's a chorus where it's just like a normal singing melody? How common is that in the genre, and what?
Yeah, I mean would you describe that's basically metalcore to a T. There, I mean, like not all bands follow that formula, but the vast majority of them do, and so that is very common in this genre.
But I mean, solid opener, one of the best choruses I'd say on the record, and one of the more fun songs. I think I struggled with some of the tracks, and we'll talk about it. It's definitely like I kind of get lost a little bit on the verse screaming sections on most of the songs because there's not much to hold on to unless you're just getting really into the lyrics. And I guess it's just kind of a preface for me. It's like I've liked some screaming stuff, and I've felt that kind of like the reason why people like it. There's that rush and that like emotion that you can just really get lost in sometimes. So there's definitely screaming stuff I do like. I think I don't love all of it on this record, but kind of go song by song on that.
Yeah, and this is kind of one of those albums where if you don't like screaming that much, if it's not like a huge part of your music taste, then this album's not for you. Yeah. Well, the second song is Beaten in Lips. This song at its core is kind of about rebellion, but more specifically, it's about rebellion against abusive parents and meant to sort of be like an anthem for teenagers living in a house with abusive adults. It's very aggressive with a catchy chorus. It was one of the singles for the album, and they have a music video where Caleb Shomo basically sets a house on fire. Although I thankfully cannot relate to this song much because I had a good childhood, I definitely can see how this would be a powerful song for someone in that type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think this song, I didn't really go deep on the lyrics for most of these. Some of them I was able to get some out of. I think that I'm down for, anything that's got a good message. And I know that for a lot of people who listen to this music, they are looking for that, outlet for, complicated feelings. And I think that's pretty cool.
Then we have Body Bag. This is the first song in the album that talks about alcoholism and drug abuse. The whole point of this song is saying that eventually you need to kind of make a choice between living a long and happy life or letting drugs and alcohol take you down a dark path that could eventually lead to your early death. I don't necessarily think that this band is like anti-alcohol, but I think mainly they're just saying that it can get out of hand very easily and get to a point where you have no control over it. So I think that theme kind of comes up all over.
There's another track, right, that is a lot about substance abuse. And I think people who have struggled with it, artists will usually, and if they've, changed, they'll usually make some art saying, hey, don't do this. This was a bad choice. I think just this and the last track don't really have anything other than that lyrical content that made it stand out. I don't think they were the strongest choruses, so I kind of got lost on these two tracks.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. I get that. The next song is In Between. This one is another single and definitely the most popular with 110 million streams. It's got the most catchy chorus for sure. Probably why it did so well. It's never been my favorite just because I think that there's more emotional songs in the album, but I can see why this one
Well,
is
it's
one
by
that
far the
people would latch on
catchiest.
to.
It's not even close. Like it's kind of like I just think it's funny. It's like the song that's going to do the best has the best chorus, and that's how it goes for anything. But it's just like I guess that's why I don't love the style of the verses, because all the verses are basically the same on every track for me.
Yeah,
Unless you
they're
get
very
really,
similar.
really in deep and like really into this style and into this band, like on first listen, it's just like it just doesn't really do anything. But like the choruses and the melodies are what's going to stick with you immediately, and I think that's why the song did so much better. It's just it is so catchy.
Then we have Relapsing. Here we have another song about alcohol, and it's definitely one of the heavier songs. Even though I do believe these songs to be specifically about alcohol, I think it's easy to take these songs to be kind of about whatever you need them to be. I mean, I don't personally relate to alcoholism, but I definitely feel like I relapse and fall into the same old habits I've always struggled with. And so I find this song to be somewhat comforting. I love the line, "There is progression because I'm still standing here." Kind of makes me think that, like, even if you aren't making the steps and making the changes, if you're at least trying to do better, it's you're headed in the right direction. The only true way to regress is by giving up on yourself.
Yeah, like I've been saying over, it's like I'm vibing and I'm liking the lyrical content so far. I think if I had to pick my least favorite track, it'd be this one. And I think it just has the weakest chorus on the record, on top of just a ton of the screaming section.
That's interesting because I think that there's a couple songs towards the end that have
There
very
are.
weak choruses.
Yeah, they are. Well, I think one of them doesn't even have one. It's just screaming all the way through.
Yeah, that last song is very different, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. Then we have Ignorance is Bliss. This is one of my favorites here. It's more about depression and other mental issues that really keep you in the dark about the good parts of life. Parts that resonate with me are like in the chorus where he talks about not seeing the sun for a long time and how he's not eating a lot. For me, like at my lowest moments, I found myself struggling with similar types of things, like not leaving my house very much, eating the bare minimum, usually just like fast food and snacks. And this song, it's the reason it's probably not like my favorite out of all of them is because it's a little more nihilistic. It doesn't really offer any solutions. It kind of just marinates in the fact that something is wrong.
Yeah, I get that. I think I definitely do look for like talking about something bad, but also giving that hope and giving that way out is just because we don't like wallowing in misery. But I agree, this has had some of my favorite lyrics. It definitely described it, that feeling well.
Well, then we have my favorite track on the album, which is "I Have a Problem." It's probably the one that talks most openly and honestly about alcoholism. I just love how personal it is. And not that there's a problem with writing generic, fun songs, because I enjoy stuff like that too from time to time. But something about how honest and sincere the singer can be about how deep into his alcohol problems that he is. It's very interesting to look inside another person's brain and see so clearly the horrible stuff that's going on. And so I also, probably my favorite part is in the bridge where it gets very Alcoholics Anonymous, where he says, "I'm admitting now that I have a problem," and then it just like explodes with chaotic energy and guitars. So I love this song.
Yeah, I mean, this one had the most obvious message in the lyrics for sure. I think that this is probably my least favorite of the screaming sections, but the chorus was one of the better on the record.
Now we have One More. I struggle with this one because it's pretty catchy. It's definitely on the catchier side of the album. Has some great melodies, but I never really have been a fan about songs that talk about music and songs. It's just like a little too meta for me. It's like in the chorus he's saying, "One more song, give me one more song. To free my head, I need sound alone." I don't know. It's just kind of weird to me to sing about how much you like music. Like, I don't know. Me too. Like, that's why I'm listening to this right now. It doesn't do much for me there.
Yeah, it's kind of like Also, I don't know. It's like more the narrative of like the song just appears to you and you just hop on a piano and play the whole thing with where it says divine and inspiration and stuff. But there's a lot more to it than when it comes to making a song, for sure. I think, right, it does have one of the better choruses. I think that goes a long way for me on that first listen. So I was fine with this one. I liked it.
Then we have Me in My Own Head. I actually played this song with some friends at a backyard show we did one time. I remember having a lot of fun with that. And that's not the only time I've played a Beartooth song in front of people. I played Hated off their second record with a group of kids for an audition for our high school talent show. And we actually ended up killing the performance, but I was pulled aside by the judges before we had even started, and they were like, just so you know, if it's metal, we're not putting it in the show. So we did not get to play
Metal
this school,
fans.
but it was fun, bro.
They'd be dealing with hard shit, bro. Jeez.
We're the most oppressive group out there, bro.
Oh, man. That's wild. But yeah, this just another solid chorus. I don't have many thoughts on this one.
All right, then we have Keep Your American Dream. This song is kind of about not wanting to have a 9-to-5 job and wanting to do things your own way, pave your own path, which is great. But I don't know. I kind of hate that artists tend to like glamorize their own lifestyle and put down the lifestyle of the common man. Like, especially as like a kid listening to this, all I wanted to do was play music.
Mm-hmm.
But then you grow up and realize that just most people can't do that. Most people have to work a normal job. And
also there's so much you sacrifice to go down this path. Like, I don't know. It just feels like I personally hate this message, and I don't like the lyrics of this one. There's plenty of songs like this. This is not the only offender of being like, here's my take on the American dream. Guess what? It's an American nightmare, and actually it's terrible, and actually it doesn't exist, and I don't want to work because working is dumb. And it's just like, okay. I mean, also, as an artist, what you're doing is work, and also you have to sacrifice a ton and do. It's just in a totally different lifestyle, and I don't know. It's like, what's the other option? Be homeless? What else are you saying? You wrote this song and put it on an album and sold it to me for money. Like, what this is? I don't know. I don't buy it. It just feels like them trying to justify the fact that, that their lifestyle required so many different things, and being like, well, at least I didn't go work a 9-to-5. I don't know. I don't buy it. I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it either, and it's just like so weird, especially because like
a lot of artists
the majority
do
of a lot of artists do that as well, and it's like the majority of people listening to these types of songs are like teenagers who are trying to figure out what to do with their life, and to hear someone they idolize saying like,
don't go to school, don't go work,
don't go to school. Yeah, it's like
go
that was my best option.
And go be an artist who's struggling to make any money, and keep buying my record. Keep buying my record while you go
your band
tour, and you can open for some crappy band that opens for me, and you can do that. Oh, you shouldn't have as much success as me, right? Because then I wouldn't be the top of the genre. But
Well, I was gonna say like, hopefully your band does well. Maybe one day you'll be able to open for me.
Yeah, make me more money, right? Yeah. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like that. I think a lot of kids must have. I probably did too. And just like buying into like artists saying, oh, this is the best life you can possibly live. And you know what? Some of them are living the best life you can possibly live. But most people who try it do not. All right.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, most people who make music in this genre at least, aren't even making money either. Like, even if they do well.
I think this genre is really hard, especially if you're a singer. I mean, this whole screaming takes on your voice. I've don't know a ton about it, but I've heard, and just I mean, this isn't a super profitable genre, unless you're selling a ton of merch like Pierce the Veil, who can write off their Hot Topic merch for the rest of their lives.
I mean, they have to be millionaires at this point off that merch.
I'm telling you, I mean, if I went into a Hot Topic right now, how much Pierce the Veil merch would I see on the walls?
You'd see at least 6 shirts. I bet I'm
telling you,
wild.
that's why they never had to make any more music. I mean, they do. If eventually they just dropped a new record, but in general, they waited 7 years?
Yeah,
And it's
long time.
because they just make money off people still buying Pierce the Veil shirts at Hot Topic. Anyways, that was a long tangent, but not my favorite track. Definitely not.
Yeah. All right, then we have Dead. This song ends up being a skip for me a lot of the time. I think it's probably the weakest song on the album just because it doesn't really make me feel anything. I love the part where he says, "Will you ever wrap your head around this? Sin does not define us." I
What
think
sin?
that part. Well, I don't know, but I think the
He's saying where people think,
message,
like Christian people think that metal is evil.
maybe. I mean, that kind of seems like where the rest of the song is going, but from that one line, I take it more as like it's, don't label people or categorize them based on the life they live. Like, you can't say someone's a bad person just because they're different from you. That's what
Yeah.
I like to take from it. But
Yeah.
the reason I don't like the song is because the rest of the song doesn't really uphold that same message.
Yeah, I don't like the song because there's no singing chorus.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely one of my least favorites.
All right, now we have Sick and Disgusting, and this song is going to be definitely more divisive, I'd say. I mean, it needs a special talking about because it's not really the same. It's obviously lower quality. It's very raw. The vocals, in fact, were all recorded in the same take. He just pressed record and sang the whole song. That may sound normal to people who don't make music, but the truth is that most of the time, like 98% of the time,
sometimes one line will have
song,
multiple tracks or like multiple takes in it in one line. So
yeah, you're singing those line by line and recording them very slowly to make sure they're perfect. But here he chose just to do it all in one take to get that raw emotion that he was feeling at the time.
and I appreciate that raw feeling on this track for sure.
Yeah,
That's
well,
gives
me
it its
too.
uniqueness
This song was recorded long before this album even came out. It was meant to go on the Beartooth debut EP, but he felt like it would turn people off too soon to be like, oh, this new band, and what this song is so like rough and personal.
Yeah.
Like he figured he would save it for a later record, and so he put it on this one. But what I love about this song is that even though it doesn't really sound great, it feels like something we shouldn't be listening to. It kind of feels like eavesdropping on someone while they're crying by themselves in their room. Like, it's very personal, and he does end up crying at the end of this song. And it has some religious lyrics, although I don't think that Caleb Shomo's particularly like a religious guy. I think it's more just at this time in his life, he was reaching out to God or a higher power to kind of save him from his problems that he was having. The end where he changes the word God for dad really gets me emotional because it sounds like a child just begging for his dad to come save him, and it's honestly heartbreaking.
Yeah, that outro is definitely the coolest part, and just really interesting and unique, and just a cool way to end the record. This track was definitely one of the best for me. I love just bringing that variety on, a record like this.
All right, well, that's all the tracks. Matt, what are your thoughts about this? I mean, I know this wasn't really your style, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this for me because I had fun with it. But what's your kind of takeaway?
I don't hate it, and it's just not my style. I don't know. And it's definitely from like a different time a little bit. I kind of am curious to know like what does Beartooth sound like now, and what is the genre like now? Because like all this track or this album and albums like it just remind me of, like you said, like high school, because that's when we listened to it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what is the genre like now? Have they changed, or is it just the same music?
I mean, it definitely changes, and Beartooth has changed a lot, but the thing about Beartooth's change is none of the change was good, in my opinion.
Really?
The song structures are very similar, but the songs are way overproduced. They're pristine. They're perfect. There's nothing raw about them. I don't know, man. And every album they make now sounds exactly the same. Like the
Well,
past
yeah.
three they've put out. It's it's nothing like this album, which is why I like this album so much. Is it's kind of unique and it's kind of a perfect display of someone's mental state at a time.
I think like my overall thought though is that I don't like albums where every song is the same style. It's the same. I mean, they're all exactly the same. I mean, obviously it's gonna be different in melody, key, tempo, all that, but it's just and lyrics, of course, and I think that's why people get into it. But I think I'm always gonna kind of not love a record where every song feels like it has to be the same style, and I feel like this genre is that. I don't do artists in this genre feel like they can throw on an acoustic track or mess around with other instruments or mess around with different styles? I feel like there's no way.
It really depends on the artist. I mean, the majority of them, no. The majority of them are going to be just straight ahead screaming songs all the way through the record. And I agree, like, even as someone who loves screaming, it's difficult to get through a new record for the first time when you don't understand any of the words and it all kind of sounds the same. That's tough.
Yeah, like if it was just a couple of these or like, you know, a little bit of this style, like I'm on board. I think it's like I kind of got overwhelmed by just 12 tracks of just basically the same thing. And I think that goes for a lot of people who aren't in the genre. And people who are in the genre are going to hate me for that take, but I don't know.
Well, if they hate you for that take, then they're dumb because they need to understand that even if you like metal a lot, there are problems with it. And one of the biggest problems with it is a lot of the songs sound the same.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are bands that are doing the complete opposite of that, where like they're extremely heavy, like Loathe is a super heavy band, but they have some of the most like bone chilling, sad piano songs I've ever heard in my life. Like it's crazy the difference. So it can be done and it should be done. So I agree with you that, yeah, this album didn't have a lot of variety. I like it because of nostalgia and because I connect with a lot of the messages, but I also see the problems and I think you're exactly right on that.
But yeah, I mean, it's not like, I mean, the only track I really didn't like was the American Dream one. Truly, like the other ones were just like sometimes boring or sometimes I didn't connect. You know what I mean? But not that anything offensively wrong, but just some thoughts, you know, especially as we listen to so many records and I've just really liked the ones that bring variety and that every track stands out, even on the first listen. I think it's important. It's a good way to, you know, get new fans and keep people around.
Alrighty, well, thank you everyone for listening. We enjoyed doing this record and we're excited to do another one next week. We are trying to get them out every week, so thank you for your patience and for your support. We love you.